Morning, everybody. December 4th, 8:10 a.m. Welcome to my channel. And yesterday, the 256 level was breached. It was breached. Microsoft news that turned out to be false. Then the market ripped back up above 256 in the Nasdaq futures. Told you guys that was an important level. Currently holding it. All right. ES was relatively stronger yesterday. Broke out of balance, but couldn't really get any follow through. And we're just hanging out at last week's highs in futures. So this market really hasn't made a move yet. Um, we just have to see. Today we have jobless claims at 8:30. They haven't really moved the markets much. Fed Bowman speaks at 12 p.m. Trump. We got some things with Trump. Yesterday, Tesla had a nice day. Basically, Trump talking about robotics, and that's going to make obviously Optimus robot from Tesla, that robotics stock going to move. So that was good on that. Again, that news from Microsoft turned out to be false. What else is going on this morning? That's about it. I'm trying to think what else that I was reading. I think we're good. All right. Yesterday had a couple of nice longs. The second one I could have held a little bit. But basically, you have this one setup where you have a poor high, which is a market profile terminology. It's when you have multiple TPOs or 30-minute bars that are all equal highs, and all I was looking for was that pullback to get in at a discount, and that happened when the market pulled back to basically VWAP, and I had two longs out of it. I got one in early. That would have proved a beautiful entry. That would have never even been challenged. So I took that. Then I took another scalp to break the highs, and that was a nice, decent day. So that was that poor high and pullback with a strong market. So yesterday everything was green. Everything was green off the open. Off the open. That's what's important in the internals. All right, now let's just get right into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets along with supply and demand. Gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. Also use anchored VWAPs. Market internals when the market opens. Bookmap futures. All right, Bookmap to really give me an edge sometimes to really see what's going on inside those candles. Sometimes it does not provide an edge, it just provides noise. But when it does, utilize it. All right. Also use my weekly expected move indicator, and pretty interesting. A lot of stocks have hit the weekly expected move, believe this or not, to the downside. Pretty interesting, right? The market, obviously the market's been gyrating up and down in balance, but there's certain stocks that actually hit the expected move to the downside. Okay. We'll go over some of those in a little bit. Now, hopefully, you guys join me every morning. Subscribe, set an alert, give you the market news, the economic calendar, leaders and laggards, just basically why the market's doing what it's doing, followed by technical analysis and the long and short trades scenarios in Nasdaq futures. Okay. If you want to get more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. What are you waiting for? Sign up. Let me be your indicator. Okay. I will not steer you wrong. Trust me. You also can get my free weekly expected move indicator that I run via Python in the mornings on Monday, and I share that with the community. So sign up, get that free indicator, put on your Thinkorswim. All right. Now let's get right into futures. Volatile volume is low right now. Okay. So Ethereum is up 0.87. Crude up 0.76. 10-year yields up 0.71. The VIX is up 0.37. The dollar's flat. Dow is flat. ES flat. Nasdaq's basically flat. Russell down 0.25. 30-year bonds are being sold. Gold's down 0.40. Bitcoin is down 0.35. And the loser today, the laggard today, I should say, silver, down 1.77. Okay. Moving on, Mag 7 Plus here. Google had a nice move yesterday. All right. Up 0.58%. Meta, pre-market, up 0.58. Okay. Microsoft up 0.35. Nvidia is not really going anywhere. Nvidia actually had a down day yesterday. I haven't checked it out yet, but Jensen Huang was interviewed on Joe Rogan. I'm about to listen to that probably later today. Tesla had a nice day yesterday. Okay. The laggard today is Coinbase and AMD. Coinbase, AMD. Not much of a laggard though. Top sectors here, let's check them out. Salesforce reported earnings. Okay. Up 1.58%. Followed by GE Vernova, who's had a nice move lately. I'm a proud owner of that. Costco is down 1.65%. Costco is down 1.65%. All right. Let's look at the granular list here. Who's up today? Dollar General. Dollar General is up 5.70%. Hims up 3.72. Five Below up 2.36. Toll Brothers up 1.46. Laggards. Snowflake down 8.91%. Interesting. Lennar Home Builder down 2.05%. ASML down 1.85. Micron down 1.78. JetBlue down 1.27. Alrighty. Let's move on to sectors. Sectors leader is not crude. Energy. It's not much of a leader. This market's muted today. Very muted. Semis is the laggard. Not down that much. Obviously, that thing moves wild, so not much to look into. Let's go over to the economic calendar here. See what's on tap for today. Initial jobless claims, that really hasn't moved markets much. Factory orders, that really doesn't move markets either. Fed Bowman speaking at 12 p.m. Let's see what happens there. Let's move over to maybe what Trump's going to do today. Let's refresh this because I saw Trump's schedule and it's really not on here. He's meeting, I don't remember now, it's not here. I just saw his schedule on my phone. He's having meetings today. He has a busy day today, but I don't see anything here speaking to the public or anything. We'll see. Okay, we'll see. Now, let's go over to some stock news. Let's see if we have a nice little summary here. Sometimes they give it, sometimes they don't. Let's see here. I don't think they have it right now. Looks like Snowflake fell on slower product revenue. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to some news here. Let's see. EU launches antitrust probe in Meta. Amazon exploring cutting ties with USPS. Oh, okay. Russia blocks Apple's FaceTime and mounting push against foreign tech platforms. BlackRock expects AI to continue dominating markets in 2026 despite risks. Salesforce raises annual forecast as AI software adoption picks up steam. Let's see here. I'm just trying to see anything that's really newsworthy here. Let's see. Let's see a couple of these. Snowflake, the company forecast fourth quarter profit revenue above analyst estimates, but falls short of lofty investor expectations for stronger growth, sending its shares down. Tesla, the EV maker's UK car registrations dropped in November, industry data showed, following steep declines in other European markets in the month amid intense competition, particularly from Chinese rivals. All right. FedEx, JP Morgan raises target price to 285 from 274. Merck Scotiabank raises target price to 120 from 105. Salesforce Barclays raises target price to 330 from 316. Alrighty, that wraps up that. Let's look at some upgrades, downgrades. Let's see what that can show us. Upgrades. Let's see here. Upgrades. Nubank upgrade. And okay. Downgrades. Let's see here. Nothing really to report here. Okay. Let's move on. Alrighty. I think we could look at the market internals. Why don't we do that? Yesterday was pretty strong for being in balance. Okay, let's look at those. Let's go over those. So on Discord, I'm saying that the day was strong. Okay. So just to see it green here. All right, tech, financials, discretionary, communications, healthcare, industrial. I mean, just a C. Okay, that market's not really going to go down with when all those are green. You also had the Vol-D. Vol-D is volume going into up stocks versus down stocks was 2.32 to 1 and 2.74 to 1. And the Nasdaq exchange and the NYSE exchange, that's decently bullish. Okay, that generally means that the market's not really going to go down. Okay, now the beauty of market internals is it's from the open. It's not worth. It's not based on stocks versus yesterday's close. Okay, so just off the open, the market just got stronger all day. That's why I got into this pullback right here. And then all I did was break. I wanted to break that, which it did. Got into 2 trades there. Okay, just waiting for that discount. All right, based on this strength, that's basically the name of the game. You see something that you've seen over and over again, and you take the edge, right? I was in my room, I was talking to one of my good friends, and I was telling him, "Hey, listen, we have a market, we have a profile, a poor high." I kept telling him, "I want a discount. I want a discount to go long. I want a discount to go long. Everything is green, and we could break out of balance, which we did, but look, we came back in, right? Remember what I've been saying? That's your market internals recap. I'm not sure if I put this up, but that was your market internal recap. Just basically strong. And so what I'm trying to say to myself, and like I've been saying this on my channel, is when I'm narrating the markets, I'm using myself as an indicator. Is when I'm highly convicted, hey, this is what usually happens. Hey, this is what you. That's my edge. It's my edge, like literally speaking to me. Like, hey, I've seen this before. This generally pulls back and breaks the highs when internals are this strong. Okay? Other than that, when I don't start narrating with conviction, there's nothing to do in the market. There's really not. Okay? Let's move on. Go right into daily charts. And I was saying earlier that there's such heavy supply above us. It's going to be hard to just push real hard with these markets. Okay? I talked about it yesterday. This trading up in here, that's what I said. See, we did break out, but then we closed here, right? We closed right at last week's highs. Sorry. We closed right at last week's highs right here. Okay. And that's actually Friday's close, that black line, last Friday's close. Okay. Still really in balance. Really? Okay. Really just in balance. Where are we at now? 684, 684.45. Right here. But you see yesterday's close. Like I said, A lot of overhead supply in both the Qs and the ES or SP 500. Okay, lot of overhead supply. So that's going to cause not the smoothest ride up unless there's a news catalyst or something. Okay, let's look at futures. Just look at that balance. 4 sessions in a row. And I told you we're in this daily supply right here. That's very important to realize that. Okay? You're in this daily supply zone. That's a daily supply. And that's not easy to just cut through. Okay? I kept saying it on my channel yesterday. This is poor location for longs. And I kept saying probability it's poor location for longs. Can you just keep pushing up? Sure. But it keeps the probabilities that you're in a daily supply is just, you know, it's going to be tough sledding to go up. Okay. That's just the probability, right? That's why I'm not like some guy who's predicting anything. It's just, well, you're in a daily supply zone. You just don't rip through it. You generally don't. If you do, then it means, whoa, buyers are strong, right? That's how you got to look at it, you know? Generally, you just don't. That's why I don't like longing like just on the highs. I want a discount, right? You want a pullback. You'll get the bigger move. Okay, let's look at the Qs. All right, so here's our Qs. So now we're in a 2-day balance in the Qs. Remember, you broke this little balance here. You held last week's highs. Okay, even came back into range the previous day. Now look at this big resistance here. You see this? The 625s? Remember I said you look to the left. That's a lot of supply here. Now you have a daily supply zone here as well. Right here. Okay? Right there. Right here is your daily supply. And you look to the left. Since this was made, selling, selling, selling. Came back in it. And it's hard to break it. Right? And the end of the supply is your 626 and a halves, but roughly around the 625s to 626 is a lot of resistance. That's why I said this is not going to be easy to cut through it. You have that gap overhead as well. Okay, this is just probability. It's not how the market works. When you come back into a highly traded area, it starts to slow down the market, especially if the market's not rip roaring. It's how it works. That's it. Qs now 623.52. 623.52 is basically the close of yesterday. So this right here. If we break this and hold, yeah, you could probably fill this gap around 629. A true gap fill 632s. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Let's look at futures, and that's the hard thing about not the yeah, it is the hard thing. And if you're not seasoned, right, in looking at probabilities, let's look at Nasdaq futures. If you're not seasoned in looking at probabilities, right, then it's very hard because you're going to be looking at immediate price action to drive your decisions, right? Like, ooh, we're breaking, right? But where are we? You're in the daily supply zone. Again, just look at the futures here. I'll keep going over this, but I want to just drive home that point of probability, right? That's a daily supply zone in futures. You don't rip. Look, see how every time we touch that, sold, 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 sold. It's not easy. So what you want to look at that like, kind of, you just want this to break this. Once you break this, right, and that's about the 258s. Now we're talking, right? Now you can maybe pull back. That can then propel it, right? You got another supply though here, daily supply around 226, 260s. That's another daily supply zone. There's a lot of overhead supply That's what I'm saying. It's tough sledding right now. It's tough sledding, right? That's why I say talking probability. I kept saying yesterday, this is not an easy long. Now, for a day trade to pull back and to get a long, okay. It's just not an easy long. Like, you don't want to long the top of the session. Doesn't make sense. It's the risk to reward is not great. Just not great. Okay? Just not great. All right? Now, let's take a breath real quick. That's our percentage of stocks above their 50-day moving average. We are at 53%. That's right in the middle, folks. 53% of the stocks in the S&P 500. So basically 250 are over their 50-day moving average. That's very middling. That makes sense, right? Our market's in balance and it's very middling. Okay. Now, a couple of stocks, let's go over them, that hit their expected move to the downside. Start off with Microsoft. You'll see my script come right up here. Let's zoom in. Do you see that? Yesterday's news hit the the expected move to the downside right there, that red line. And again, this is free on my Discord. There's last Friday's close. We pushed down on that negative news. Get rid of this. Okay. Even that it was negative news, you had a nice wick come in late in the day. But hit its expected move to the downside, right? Interesting. Microsoft's a large mega cap stock, okay? Another one, Netflix, hit its expected move to the downside. See that wick? It's so crazy when these hit these expected moves that it just whoop. It's not priced in. Below this level is not priced in. Okay, I'm kind of like thinking about possible long in Netflix eventually. Okay, hit its expected move to the downside. Okay, another one, Eli Lilly. That was the darling. That parabolic move, right? What did it hit? The 20-day moving average and expected move to the downside. So a lot of these major stocks are getting pullbacks, right? And our SPY just broke out. And so think about that. If Microsoft, Netflix hit its expected move to the downside, now there's probably more room to the upside, right? Eli Lilly, the number one holding in healthcare, hit the expected move to the downside. Let's go over another one. You got Broadcom, hit its expected move to the downside. Had a kind of a parabolic move last week, right? What did it do? Right there, the wick, right at the expected move to the downside. Now we have room to go up. You got a discount. All right. There's a pattern here, right? Let's go over two more. Berkshire Hathaway is the number one holding in financials. Hit its expected move to the downside in the 20-day simple moving average. And the last one, GE, also hit its expected move to the downside. So there's more room. This is actually also looking at a decent trade, maybe in GE. Okay, hit the 100-day moving average. Now you wicked below all these candles. You got a nice, you can call that a hammer a little bit. Okay, hit a monthly low. Remember, this is last month's lows right there. So hopefully, see that power of those expected moves to the downside. Okay, it's just the expected move from last Friday's options market. That's what was priced in. It's just kind of crazy. It is crazy watching this because it really is something. Because the options market basically moves our market. Okay. All right, moving on to hourly charts. It's really not much to go over. Okay. Still really an ultimate balance here. Obviously skewed to the upside. Let's look at it here. This is your hourly charts. All right. Now, let's see. You can see obviously there's a trend here, right? Maybe you want to say this is an ascending triangle. So we're basically chugging upwards, right? That right here, you swept this low, right? And most likely you were going to take out this level. You did, and more, okay? Because you stayed in balance, right? I mean, I've been saying this all week. Look, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and now we're holding, okay? Ultimate balance is down here. You are above it. We're right at last week's highs. We're playing around with last week's highs. But there's a lot of overhead supply. Okay, that's what I talked about yesterday. It's going to be tough sledding because there's not poor structure above us. Okay, if you zoom out, you can see right here, this trading right here. Okay, so there's a high volume node right here. We hit our head on it yesterday. So this is not the easiest ride up. You don't have poor structure here. Okay, so that's why it's kind of malazing. It's malazing up. Okay, you need to crack the 6900s really to get going. Okay, let's look at the Qs now. Okay, the Qs, remember, has kind of like a 2-day balance. Okay, we're in again. I showed you guys those supply zones. Those daily supply zones are very powerful. Right? And you can see, obviously, you got a like trend here. You got another little trend here. Okay, you're at ultimate balance. Remember, I talked about this level yesterday. I said, oh boy, 256. 256 is my level. And when the Microsoft news broke, right? And I kept telling you guys, hey, look, we're in a major demand zone here with the month to date anchored VWAP, week to date anchored VWAP. Don't if this was really negative, we would have broke this low. We would have been down here. And what did the market do? Remember what I said about last week's highs? You notice how this hourly candle, that was support, and then we just worked our way up to here, right? Above 256, and we're holding 256. And you have that inverse head and shoulders here now. You got your neckline here. You got left shoulder, right shoulder, head, and you can move up, right? But we're in that daily supply zone, so it's not an easy move. Okay, not easy. I mean, everything's pointing to up. Nothing here I'm seeing is like, I don't know. But it's the market has those daily supply zones, which holding the market back a little bit. You need catalyst. You need this market to start rip roaring and everything start to go together. All right, that's your Nasdaq. Okay, really has that nice inverse head and shoulders pattern. Really classic there. It's a bullish pattern. We'll have to see. All right, moving on to your market profile, volume profile. Let's look at it here. Oh, just beautiful here. Beautiful. This is your market profile, volume profile here. And let's look at some levels. I mean, still showing us our balance. Very balanced. Okay. Try to break out. Gave you some hope that we could break out, but I know there's a lot of heavy supply overhead. Okay. You have a very balanced profile. You do have a poor high in the overnight session here. You do have a poor high. Okay. So, what do we do? All right. Now you're really you can see these balance lows really coming into play here. if we get some type of weakness, boy, oh boy, this is quite an area that you could really break. But until it breaks, 68.12s to 68.20s about really an area to concentrate on. Remember, we have a big demand zone. Remember, the thicker the dotted line, it's at least a 6 hour and above demand zone. Okay? Every time we've come in here, we've gotten bought. Okay? Those are just more powerful, and you have a couple of them. Okay? Now, we have another confluence high. Let's talk about it at a high volume node, right? The 68.75 is about right here. Now, you have yesterday's highs. This is a beautiful little area right here. Yesterday's highs with the overnight highs. You have a poor high in the overnights. You can see that this right here, it's a poor high. Okay. Longs had poor location here. So you're making a move to try to possibly go up. Okay. Now, next level here would be the overnight lows with the most traded price of the rolling week around 68.50s. Right here. Okay. This encompasses the value area low from yesterday, the 50% retracement of yesterday. You really don't want to lose this. Now you have the most traded price of yesterday. That is your 68.62s, which let's include that here. That's important. And you know what that happens to be also the most traded price of the overnight in the close. A lot of levels here. A lot of levels here. Okay, and you just have, I said it before, very thick supply zones above us. Okay, it's not going to be easy to just churn through that. All right, it's been proven, as I keep saying, these probabilities. All right, so let's break this out. Okay, break it out. We only have a 16-point range in the overnight. That is not the best. Okay, just don't know what we're going to do here. All right, never do really know. Okay, let's get into scenarios. All right, we're going to go who's in control right now. Bulls are in control. Right, so we're holding last week's highs. Trying to, at least. Have the poor high up here. This could be a little bull trap as well. But like I said, I don't care if it's a bull trap. If I can get down here along and then, all right, I hit the, I break this high, fine, I'm out. I'm not going to be bored up with a bull trap. Okay, I know there's tough sledding above us. So what I'm going to look for is this, right? I know we have the 73s up here, 71s, that area. I believe you can break that, right? Maybe cause a tail and maybe we roll over. I don't know. Okay. So, a couple things here. If we pull back, okay, like right now we're at the most traded price, the overnight most traded price yesterday. There's longs here. There's longs here. So, if we start to push down, I would expect, right, some selling. If we break that overnight lows, we come back right into, right, the most traded price of the week. Okay, value area low, the midpoint of yesterday. This has to happen quick. I want to see it come in here, push off, and then start to work its way up to break the poor high in the overnight and yesterday's highs. Maybe you get up to here, the beginning of this supply, right at 68.80. I don't know if you get follow through from there. Okay. Now, again, since we're in balance, this is real shaky. You really don't want to go through this and get follow through. That will be part of the bear scenario, but you'll understand why. Okay, this needs to be quick. I don't want to hang out here. Now, the other case, we can just start up, break this, okay, come back to 73s, get support, and try to work ourselves up. Now remember, we're still in ultimate balance, so when we do move, it will be a very big move. It will be big. Okay? Remember, ultimate balance equals big move. Okay? Now, if this market does break through this level, that will be a little bit of a look above and fail in balance rules, and you should go back to the other side of balance. Okay? Remember these equal lows here? Big demand zone, it's thicker, right? If you come into this and you bounce, that is just a long off balance, and maybe you push yourself back into here. That's balance rules. Okay? That's it, folks. Now, shorts. Short side. Okay? Now, balance rules again. Okay? Let's say if we push up, break this. Remember I said this could be a bull trap. This high volume node here, 6875s. Maybe we touch that naked VPOC from the past. All naked VPOC is an untested most traded price of a day. Or maybe we kiss that supply, 6880, and we fall back under. Retest. Now, remember, the most traded price of the overnights and of yesterday is 6862s, around there around. Okay? If you break this with force, it's going to cause some selling. You're going to break the overnight lows. You're going to come back to the mean. Now, because long's getting paid, okay, this is a look above and fail. You will start to cascade through the balance lows. Now, like I said before, you could bounce here because we're in balance. However, if this really gains steam and a look above and fail is pretty bearish, you could just traverse this and really cause a deep sell-off. Okay? Remember, everybody who's long is getting paid. And all it takes is one whip down to panic. Okay? So I'm only interested, really, okay, if you get this, or if you break this and start to hold and break the mid right in here. So you want to hold below that level of 68, what is that, 48 about, and then try to get that move to balance lows. That's your ES. Okay. Nasdaq's. Nasdaq has a beautiful resistance here. That's your like around the 250. Let's call it 257s, but really the 690s to the 257s is a breakout level. My lord, is that a breakout level? So you have very beautiful levels in this Nasdaq. Very, very beautiful levels. Really nice. Okay. I mean, there's very clear. Very clear. Okay. First level we have to talk about is ultimate balance. Oh, let's get out of that color. 256. I said that ad nauseum yesterday in my community on my stream. 256, 256, 256. All I said, right? It's ultimate balance. It's your barometer. So we got to mark it off. It just happens to be, right? 256. Look at that. Overnight lows. Right? We got the overnight lows right here. Okay? Pretty nice. Now we know we have a big level up here. And in this large supply, remember we're in daily supply. So we have a level, and we're going to make it right here. That's your 25693s, your overnight highs. You kind of have a weakish high right here. See, these TPOs are kind of really next to each other. It doesn't really have a tail. Okay? You have a poor high here. So this is begging to get broken. Begging. All right? Really begging. It's just that I know there's tough sledding above us. Okay? Now, down here, this is probably your failsafe here. You have the 50% retracement in yesterday's most traded price. You really don't want to spend time here. Okay. Then you have another beautiful level. You have a major demand zone with last week's highs right here. You have the month to date anchored VWAP, week to date anchored VWAP, which pretty much saved it yesterday. And you have these 25413s, this area. Two stacked major demand zones down here. Okay, so you can see 3 sessions in a row, our lows are down here. That is susceptible to get broken. Now it could be support again, but look out. Then you have a major support at 25324s. 25324s. Okay, with this high volume node on the 25320s. Okay, that's what you're looking at. Remember, above us, we're in overhead supply, a lot of overhead supply. That's why I said it's not going to be easy to churn, just break out. There's not poor structure above us. There's actually a lot of structure. That's why it's having a hard time. Okay, I can't stress that enough. Okay, I can't stress that enough. So let's break out the session. Very balanced profile overnight. All right. Important part is what the market's telling us is it's ready to go higher because it's accepting price above the 256. Remember, this 256 is an area. I don't want to box myself in and say, let me just trade 256 exactly. No, it's an area, right? Markets don't move like on exact numbers, right? They're ranges. Okay. So let's get into it. Again, hopefully, if you guys are watching me, or whoever is watching me, there's questions sometimes. Maybe you don't know what I'm saying. Maybe you do. I don't know. Feel free to always comment with a question. Because I know this is a little advanced. I'm just used to looking at this. I prefer to look at this to make game plans over anything else. It's just so clear to me. There's so many inflection points on my charts that I just get automatically that's how I can come up with game plans with you guys. All right, I'm going to put it up one more time here. Let's get into it. Bulls are in control. Okay. So, overnight range. We're near the overnight range lows, right? We know we're holding the 256s. So, what I feel can happen, okay? Little bear trap here. Let's say we did fall. It has to be quick. And we tapped the 50% retracement of yesterday, but we have to recover this quickly. Like this. Now you have to battle the 256. So it would be very brave of me to just go long right here. I kind of really need some confirmation to rip up and then start to hold it. Then it's going to start to give me some confirmation that I can go long, break the 25693s, and possibly get some excursion. I know there's heavy supply up here, so maybe you trail it because I don't think it's going to be an easy ride unless the market's all out crazy strong. Remember, judge the 256. That's why I'm saying this could be a bear trap. Okay, what could also happen? Well, you could just drive up, break the 25693s, and then you want to look for some type of retest to go higher. All right, underneath the 50% retracement at 25558, I'm not probably interested in longs too much unless we come down to here. Now remember, this is going to have longs here and they're going to be in trouble. So you're going to cascade down to last week's highs. If you break the month to date, week to date anchor VWAP, then you come down to this area. I would think you break it. If you're coming down here, you probably break this area, cause some extra further selling. And remember, this is major demand zones. Major. You could go all the way down to here. I don't know. But let's say you just did this, close back inside the range. You might get a move back to the mean. Balance lows here. Okay. Balance lows. Shorts. There's definitely shorts here. Okay. So, now, what if we just do this? Break out, hit this supply, right? Go back into the range, get a lower high. Now you get some steam, okay? You know, longs from here are getting paid. You come through here, the 256 might be it. It's a major level. However, if you cut through it and start to hold underneath it, you can't get back over it. That's pretty bearish. We should roll back over, and like I said, touch these 25420s. This would be the real test. You're in major demand. Major demand. Okay, you could bounce. However, you could also flush all the way down to the 25320s. Okay, you really can start cooking. This might bounce from here. If you take the 25320s out, you're going to go down all the way probably to the 252 area. Could get really nasty because you have support here, 3 sessions, and if the market panics, you could get the pullback, and then Santa Claus could come to town probably. Okay, if you want to be conservative, you wait for the 256 to break and just wait for the market to say, oh man, we're really holding under the 256, and let's say the market's not that strong. Well, you could definitely go back. All right, that is the analysis. All right, if you want to look at let's look at ES here. This is my express chart here, which just tells me where we're at. You can see the most traded price of the month and the week are equal. That's your 68.50s, right? And we're above it. And you can see previous weekly highs up here, previous monthly highs up here, about 1,600. Remember I said 6,900? Right there, okay? That's how you can make sense of this market. Okay, now if we go to the NASDAQ, I have the same kind of chart. Okay, really bullish and balanced to this week. Okay, remember every light blue profile is a weekly. Every white is a monthly. Okay, now you can see, just to show you guys how markets work. Okay, notice this is last month's most traded price, 25213. Remember I talked about the 252s? Just talked about it, right? And remember, all the market does is base, then trend. So when we came down here again, back to that last month's most traded price, we found support. And then we pushed up. Where? To another week's most traded price. See how we go right back to a base. It's not shocking. That work what we're doing. We're basing again. Setting up a move to the downside or to the upside. Notice the volume here. Okay, that's all the market does. Base trend, base trend. Okay, so this is a base now. You know we're going to trend now. It's just a matter of when. We're in ultimate balance. The reason why we're ultimate balance, this is the most traded price of the month. This month, which just started. Most traded price of this week. And look, it's a prior most traded price of a week. Also, another most traded price of the week right here. That's why you're getting this volume here. Okay, that just adds it all up. It's a composite volume profile. So get ready for a move, right? Where is this weekly high? Right here. You have a weekly high right here, about the 258s. 258s. Then you have a pocket of volume, right? This thin volume. See this structure here? That's not the best structure. You can move up to here. Why? Because that's the 26060s. That's a prior most traded price of a week. That's how the market works. That's it. Okay? That's how it works. Now, just to show you, notice the most traded price of a week here, right? That was the base, right? And then you dropped viciously. That's why this is a daily supply zone. You see what I'm saying? This was a prior base that had a lot of volume and we ripped down. So now when we revisit this area, that's why it's causing problems. Look at all these wicks. These are 4-hour candles. That is why. But we're just queuing up like a spring, getting ready to break. Or break. I don't know which way it goes. Okay, but that's really how you can look at these profiles. Okay, hopefully that made sense to you guys. I try to make things make sense. Okay, who knows who's watching? I do it without anybody watching, but hopefully you guys like that. Smash the like button if you can. Of course, I would love for you to join me every morning. I do this. Give you the market news, the market story, economic calendar, leaders and laggards, a bunch of technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in NASDAQ and ES futures. Okay, if you want more in-depth coverage, you will join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Also, get my free expected move indicator that I run every Monday morning, and I share it with the community for free. Put it on your Thinkorswim charts, okay? Then you can see it on your phone as well. Remember, I said a bunch of major stocks have hit their expected move to the downside. It's very interesting. And there's some major players that did that. Now, when you get a discount, people buy, right? So we'll have to see what transpires with that. Okay. Now, you want to come in my room today? Please join me. If I don't see you in my room, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. All right. Everybody have a great day.